Hey guys, tonight we're diving into a story that starts with a whisper and ends with a scream you'll never hear. The house is old, the air is thick, and you, my friend, are right in the middle of it. So grab a blanket, maybe turn up the volume a notch, but not too much. You don't want to wake anything up. And for those of you with creaky floors or a cat who likes to knock things over, you're probably not going to survive this. But hey, it's all for fun, right? So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you are right now and what time it is in the comments below. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. It all started, as these things often do, with a knock you didn't expect. You're sitting there, scrolling through a meaningless social media feed, feeling the weight of the day settle in your shoulders, when a courier delivers a package, not a sleek, modern Amazon box, but something heavy and wrapped in brown paper that feels almost organic. It smells of dust and something faint, like old flowers pressed between pages. You sign for it, the pen scratching on the carbon copy, and the courier is gone before you can even ask who it's from. The package isn't addressed to you, not exactly. It has your name, but then it says care of the last living member of the censored family. You stand in your entryway, a little confused, a lot intrigued. You are an only child, and your parents passed away years ago. You've never heard of this family name before. The name on the return address is faded, barely legible. Great-aunt Eleonora. You'd never even heard that name. You bring the package inside, the weight of it surprising you. It's not big, maybe the size of a shoebox, but it feels like it's filled with rocks. The wrapping paper, you notice, isn't just paper. It's almost like parchment, tied with a rough string. You pull at the string, and it's a tight knot, so you grab a pair of scissors. The moment you snip the string, a faint, almost imperceptible ringing echoes in the quiet of your apartment. It sounds like a tiny, distant bell. You dismiss it, telling yourself it was just a loose wire on the scissors. But the hairs on the back of your neck are standing up. You peel back the layers of paper to reveal a box, not a cardboard box, but an antique wooden one, dark mahogany, intricately carved with what looks like twisting vines and small, petrified flowers. The craftsmanship is incredible, something you'd see in a museum. There's no lock, just a small, raised brass clasp. You press it, and the lid springs open with a soft thump. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded, blood-red velvet, is a single, tarnished brass key. But it's not a normal key. The bow, the part you hold, is shaped like a bird with its wings folded, and the bit is a complex, almost fractal pattern, not something you've ever seen on a modern lock. You pick it up. It's cold to the touch, colder than it should be, a perpetual chill that seems to sink into your skin. Under the key, there's a small, folded piece of paper, the same parchment as the wrapping. You open it, the fragile paper crinkling under your fingers, and read the looping, spidery script. To the last of the line. The key belongs to the house. The house belongs to the family. Find the house, find the truth. 773 Kalat Siakal Lane. It calls, please, do not ignore it. E. Your heart pounds against your ribs. Kalat Siakal. The name rings a bell, a deep, unsettling tone from a long-lost history class. You remember learning about the Dyatlov Pass incident, where a group of 9 Soviet hikers died under mysterious circumstances in the Ural Mountains. The mountain where their tent was found was called Kalat Siakal, which translates from the indigenous Mansi language to Dead Mountain. A chilling coincidence, you tell yourself. It must be. The location can't possibly be the same. This is America. This is a city, not a desolate mountain range. But the knot in your stomach tightens. You can almost hear the faint rustle of snow, the whisper of cold wind, just from looking at the name. You pull out your phone, the screen a stark, modern contrast to the old-world artifacts in your hands. You type in the address. The search results load, slow and hesitant, as if the internet itself is reluctant to show you the location. And there it is, a street name, a real street name just outside the city limits, but in a rural area you've never heard of. You zoom in on the map. It's an old, winding road that ends abruptly at a pin. No satellite image available, just a gray, grainy block where the house should be. There's also no record of any Eleonora living there, or anywhere, in fact. You check census records and historical archives. Nothing. This isn't a prank, you realize. No one would go to this much trouble. The box, the key, the note. They all feel real, authentic, heavy with purpose. A creepy little trivia tidbit surfaces in your mind. Something you read once about psychometry. The supposed ability to sense the history of an object by touching it. As you hold the cold key, you feel a faint echo of dread and desperation, a feeling that wasn't your own. It's a ridiculous thought, of course, but you can't shake the chill that's now settled in your bones. The note says it calls. You glance at the phone again. The pin on the map seems to pulse. Historians still debate whether the Dyatlov Pass hikers were killed by a strange avalanche or an unknown force. But you can't help but feel that you're about to find out what happens when you follow a map to a place with that name. The house is calling, and you're starting to think ignoring it isn't an option. The key in your hand feels heavier now, the brass bird cold and unforgiving. The note, with its spidery handwriting, almost seems to hum. The address is seared into your brain. 773 Kalat Siakal Lane. It's not a joke, not a mistake. You can feel it. The truth, or whatever the great aunt called it, is waiting there. You fold the note, slip it and the key into your pocket, and feel a strange mix of dread and exhilaration. It's like being a kid again, hearing a campfire ghost story and knowing it's not real, but still being terrified, except this time you have the map to the ghost. You tell yourself it's just curiosity, that you're a sensible adult with a firm grip on reality. You tell yourself you'll drive out there, take a few pictures from the road, and just satisfy that nagging feeling in your gut. But even as you think it, you know you're lying. The box, the key, the eerie name, they've already got a hook in you. And you're pulling on the line. You grab your car keys, a flashlight, and your phone, then head out the door. The drive is longer than you expect, winding through suburbs that thin out into rural farmland, then into dense, unkempt forest. The road turns from asphalt to gravel, and the GPS signal on your phone gets weaker and weaker. You pass a sign that's been half torn down, barely legible, warning about a dead end. Your stomach clenches, but you keep going. The trees close in, a suffocating wall of dark green. The light from your headlights seems to get swallowed up, barely illuminating the narrow path. You've been driving for what feels like an hour, with no other cars, no streetlights, nothing but the endless stretch of trees. Finally, you see a break in the darkness. The road widens, and you find yourself in front of a tall, wrought iron fence. It's rusted and covered in thorny vines. A gate, wide enough for a car to pass through, hangs slightly ajar, creaking softly in the non-existent breeze, and beyond it, in the gloom, stands the house. It's an old Victorian, 2 stories high, with a tall, skeletal turret reaching for the sky. The windows are dark and empty, like the eyes of a skull. The porch sags in the middle, and the roof is missing a few shingles. But even in its state of total disrepair, you can feel the history, the weight of 100 years pressing down on it. It's not just a house, it's a monument to something forgotten. You park your car on the gravel road, get out, and stand in the cold, silent air. There's a strange, earthy smell here, a mix of damp soil, and something else, something you can't quite place, like old, wet fabric or decaying wood. You walk towards the gate, your boots crunching on the gravel. The air grows colder with every step. The gate gives way with a metallic groan, and you step onto what was once a paved driveway, now cracked and overgrown with weeds. The silence is profound. No birds, no insects, not even the rustle of leaves. The whole place is dead. You aim your flashlight at the front door. It's heavy, made of thick, dark wood, and it's surrounded by the same intricate, twisting vine carvings you saw on the box. You pull the brass key from your pocket. It feels right at home in your hand now, like it was always meant to be here. You slip it into the keyhole. It slides in perfectly, the complex bit finding its place with a soft click. The doorknob is cold and smooth. You turn it, and the door creaks open with a long, drawn-out whine. A puff of musty air, thick with the smell of dust and disuse, hits your face. You step inside, your flashlight beam cutting a path through the suffocating darkness. The silence inside is even deeper than outside. It's a silence that isn't just a lack of sound. It's an active, smothering presence. You feel like you've just stepped into an old storybook, the kind you read as a child that left you with nightmares. This whole atmosphere reminds you of the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose, California. A sprawling mansion built by Sarah Winchester, heiress to the Winchester rifle fortune. Legend has it, she believed the spirits of those killed by Winchester rifles haunted her, and she built the house continuously for 38 years to confuse them. The house has staircases to nowhere, doors that open to walls, and windows that look into other rooms, all designed to ward off the restless dead. It was a bizarre, almost insane way to try and escape what she believed was a curse. You can't help but feel a similar madness in the air here. You sweep your flashlight beam across the parlor. It's filled with shrouded furniture, ghosts of another time. A grand piano is covered in a white sheet, looking like a massive, waiting corpse. Dust motes dance in the beam, shimmering like tiny stars. A scholarly debate phrase pops into your head. Historians still debate whether the house's strange architecture was truly a result of a supernatural belief, or simply the product of a grieving, eccentric widow's architectural whims. But as you stand here, in the cold, unnatural silence, the supernatural explanation feels a lot more plausible. You take a step forward, your footfall a thunderous echo in the oppressive quiet. A cold draft wraps around your ankles, and you shiver. You've only been in here for a few minutes, but a creeping sense of dread is starting to settle in. It's an intuition you've always had, a feeling that something is wrong, and right now, it's screaming at you. The great aunt's note said, "It calls." And as you stand in the center of the silent room, you feel something reaching for you, not with hands, but with an invisible, suffocating pressure. A strange, quirky bit of folklore comes to mind. A belief in liminal spaces, places of transition that are neither here nor there, and are said to be havens for spirits. This house, you realize, feels exactly like that. It's not just a house, it's a doorway. And you just unlocked it. The air inside the house is a suffocating blanket. It feels thick with dust and a strange, mournful energy. You shine your flashlight around the parlor, and the beam catches on a large, ornate grandfather clock in the corner. Its hands are frozen at 10:14. You can't tell if that was the time it stopped, or if it's a macabre detail meant to stand out. You feel a familiar, prickling sensation on the back of your neck. It's the feeling of being watched, and it's getting stronger. The silence is no longer passive. It's active, expectant, as if something is holding its breath just out of your line of sight. You walk past the shrouded furniture, each lump under a sheet looking like a waiting figure. You feel a phantom chill every time your flashlight passes over one. You're trying to be rational, telling yourself it's just your imagination running wild. You're in a creepy old house. This is what's supposed to happen. But the rational voice in your head is getting quieter and quieter. As you move deeper into the house, your feet crunch on something. You shine your light down, and see the floor is littered with what looks like small, petrified flowers. The same kind carved into the box. They crunch under your boots, a dry, brittle sound. You reach the end of the parlor and find yourself at a set of heavy, sliding pocket doors. You feel an immense resistance when you try to push them open, as if something is holding them shut from the other side. With a final, desperate shove, they groan and slide open with a deafening scrape. You step into a study. The air here is even colder, smelling of old leather and something vaguely metallic. The flashlight beam sweeps over a large mahogany desk, a floor-to-ceiling bookshelf, and a fireplace choked with soot. Everything is covered in a thick layer of dust, a testament to how long this house has been left to rot. On the desk, you see a small, framed photograph. You walk over and pick it up, blowing a cloud of dust from the glass. The picture is old, a sepia-toned rectangle. It shows your great-aunt Eleonora. She's standing with a group of 4 other people, all of them young, dressed in clothes from a long-gone era. They're standing in front of a house that looks suspiciously like this one, but new, well-kept, and alive. Everyone in the photo looks happy, except for your aunt. Her face is pale and drawn, her eyes wide with what can only be described as pure, unadulterated fear. You turn the photo over, and on the back, in the same spidery script from the note, is a single word. Trapped. The word sends a jolt through you. Trapped. Was she trapped in this photo? Trapped in this house? Or was she trapped by something else? You look from the photo to the room around you. The shadows seem to deepen, and the air feels even heavier. This is no longer just a creepy abandoned house. It's a crime scene, or maybe something worse. You can't help but think about the Amityville Horror, a famous paranormal case where a family claimed their house was haunted by a violent spirit after a mass murder occurred there. While many consider it a hoax, the family's descriptions of disembodied voices, strange cold spots, and an oppressive feeling of dread still chill you to the bone. You can't shake the feeling that you're walking into your own version of that story, a bizarre, morbid bit of folklore from the Victorian era comes to mind. It was believed that photographing the dead could help capture their souls, keeping them from moving on. These so-called post-mortem photographs were incredibly common. Looking at the terrified face of your great-aunt, you wonder if she was already dead inside when this photo was taken, her soul already in the process of being captured by this place. The idea is unsettling, but in this house, it feels disturbingly plausible. Historians still debate whether the Amityville case was a genuine haunting or a well-crafted publicity stunt. But the chilling details of the account echo through this study. The cold air and the sense of being watched, adding a layer of dread that feels all too real. You hold the photo, staring at your aunt's terrified eyes, and you feel a strange sense of empathy for a woman you never knew. You're not here to just look anymore. You're here to find out what happened to her. You put the photo back down, the glass cold against your fingertips. The flashlight beam slides across the desk and stops on a loose floorboard near the bookshelf. You feel a pull, an almost physical compulsion to investigate, and a small, cold voice whispers in your ear, so close it makes you shiver. Help us. The whisper is so faint, so delicate. It's almost not there. But you heard it. You know you did. It was just a breath of sound, a fragile plea hanging in the cold, still air of the study. You stand there, your heart hammering against your ribs, and for a moment you're frozen. The flashlight beam shakes in your hand, its little circle of light dancing nervously across the old, dusty furniture. You tell yourself it was the wind, that the house is just settling, that your mind is playing tricks on you, but the cold whisper is still ringing in your ears, and it smells like dust and despair. You look down at the loose floorboard again, the one you spotted earlier. It seems to stand out now, an intentional flaw in the perfect decay of the room. You kneel, the old wood groaning under your weight, and you press your fingers against the edge of the board. It feels slightly different, a little slicker, as if someone's hand has been there recently. With a grunt, you wedge your fingers under it and pull up. The board comes up with a long, protesting screech, revealing a dark, shallow cavity underneath. The smell of old paper and something else, something cloying and sickly sweet, wafts up to you. You shine your flashlight into the hole. Tucked inside, wrapped in a piece of oilskin, is a small, leather-bound journal. The leather is dry and cracked, the pages yellowed with age. You pull it out, and the oilskin crumbles in your hands like dried leaves. On the cover, the name Eleonora is embossed in faint gold lettering. You hold it, and the cold from the key in your pocket seems to transfer to the journal, making it feel like a block of ice in your hands. This is it, the truth the note promised. You flip through the pages, the paper dry and brittle. The entries are dated, starting from decades ago. Her handwriting is neat at first, flowing and confident. The first entries are about the house, about how beautiful and peaceful it is. She writes about the rolling hills and the isolation, calling it a perfect escape. But as you turn the pages, the handwriting becomes more frantic, the lines slanting and uneven, the ink smeared in places as if she were writing in a hurry or crying. The tone shifts from one of serene happiness to one of growing unease. She mentions sounds she can't explain. Footfalls in the hallway when no one is there. Whispers she can't quite make out. You sit there on the dusty floor, lost in her words. She talks about the house having a mind of its own, about the way the doors would open and close on their own. She describes a feeling of being watched, of something constantly standing just behind her, always in the periphery. And then you read an entry that makes your blood run cold. She writes about the shadows. She says they're not just a lack of light, they're a substance, a living, breathing thing that moves when you're not looking. You can almost feel it now. The way the shadows in the study seem to writhe and stretch, pulling at the edges of your flashlight beam. This phenomenon of a house seeming to be alive, or having a malevolent spirit, is a classic trope in many hauntings. The Borley Rectory, for example, was an English manor house widely considered to be the most haunted house in Britain. It was investigated by numerous paranormal researchers who claimed to have seen apparitions, heard disembodied voices, and witnessed objects being thrown, while many of the claims were later debunked. The idea of the house itself being a living, malicious entity persists. The fact that the house was built on a site with a long, sordid history of alleged hauntings only adds to the lore. A strange bit of folklore enters your mind. A story about shadow people, figures seen in the corner of your eye that vanish when you look directly at them. These entities are a staple of urban legends, often described as tall, cloaked, or featureless. Some occultists believe them to be interdimensional beings, while others think they're simply psychological phenomena caused by sleep paralysis or stress. But as you read Eleonora's panicked words about the shadows moving, the lines between folklore and reality begin to blur. Historians still debate whether the Borley Rectory was a true paranormal hotspot or simply a meticulously crafted hoax. But the terror in your great aunt's journal feels undeniably real. Her fear leaps off the page, grabbing you by the throat. She describes a sensation of being drawn deeper into the house, a sense of an irresistible force compelling her to go upstairs to the attic. She writes about a growing feeling of hopelessness, of being trapped with no way out. The final entries are barely legible, scrawled with a desperate hand. The last words on the last page are just a single, repeated phrase. It wants me to open it. The attic door. Your heart sinks into your stomach. You look up from the journal and see a dark, imposing staircase at the end of the study. And at the very top, in the pitch black, is a door. The journal slips from your trembling fingers, falling to the floor with a soft, papery sigh. The words, "the attic door," echo in your mind. A new, terrible purpose for this bizarre journey. You stare at the staircase, a black maw leading up into the unknown. The shadows from the study seem to stretch and lengthen, reaching for the first step, as if pulling you toward the dark. You can almost feel the presence of your great aunt in her own words. Her fear, a tangible thing you can taste in the dusty air. You're not just a witness anymore. You're a participant. You pick up the journal, carefully placing it in your coat pocket. You need to know what happened, why she was so desperate, so terrified. And the answers, you now believe, are at the top of those stairs. As you move toward the first step, you hear a sound. It's not a whisper this time. It's a distant creak, a groan of old wood somewhere upstairs. You freeze, your heart pounding in your ears. Was that just the house settling? Or was it something else? You stand there, barely breathing, your flashlight beam aimed at the first step, and you hear it again. A long, drawn-out squeak, like a heavy footfall on a loose floorboard. You're not alone. Every instinct you have is screaming at you to run, to turn around and get out of this house. get back to your car and drive away as fast as you can. But a strange, stubborn curiosity, a morbid need to understand, keeps you rooted to the spot. You have the key. You have the journal. You are, for some inexplicable reason, a part of this now. It's no longer about a ghost story or a spooky video. This is real. You take a deep breath, the air cold and stale in your lungs, and place your foot on the first step. The wood groans, a soft, low complaint. The sound seems to be swallowed by the thick silence. The staircase is dark, but your flashlight cuts a clean, bright circle on the steps. You climb slowly, each step a conscious effort, your other senses on high alert. You're listening for another sound, watching for a shadow that moves, feeling for a drop in temperature. And as you ascend, the temperature plummets. It's not a gradual chill, it's an abrupt, piercing cold that makes you gasp. It feels as if you've just walked into a freezer. You can see your breath in the light of the flashlight. You rub your arms, trying to get warm. But the cold is coming from inside. A feeling of dread that's settling deep into your bones. It's the kind of cold you feel when you wake up from a nightmare. The kind that reminds you of a fear you can't place. This sudden, inexplicable temperature drop is a common phenomenon in paranormal accounts, often called a cold spot. It's theorized by some parapsychologists to be a result of a spirit drawing energy from the surrounding environment to manifest. These spots often feel like an empty pocket of air, a space where all warmth has been sucked out. The feeling here is exactly that, a void where life and warmth should be. It makes you want to run, but you force yourself to keep going. A weird historical tidbit pops into your head. Something about spirit photography from the 19th century. People would pay photographers to capture images of their deceased, loved ones' spirits standing with them in a portrait. Of course, most of these were double exposure hoaxes, but the belief in them was so strong and the demand so high that it became a massive industry. People wanted to believe so badly that they were willing to be deceived. As you walk up these cold stairs, you wonder if you're a part of a similar hoax, a psychological trick being played on you by the house itself, but the cold feels too real. Historians still debate whether the most famous spirit photographs were simple cons, or if they had some unexplained element. But as you feel the chill of this staircase, the cold feels too profound to be anything but real. The air is stagnant and heavy, and your breath is a cloud of white in front of your face. You reach the top of the stairs and are met with a dark landing. Your flashlight sweeps across the hallway. There are 2 rooms on either side, their doors slightly ajar, and at the end of the hall, a smaller, darker door. The attic door. It's old and warped, the paint peeling in long, ugly strips. It's slightly ajar, just as your great aunt wrote. A sliver of blackness sits between the door and the frame, a crack that looks like a mouth waiting to be opened. You can feel a faint draft coming from that crack, a current of air that smells like old secrets and rot. The door seems to be breathing. And as you watch, it creaks open another inch, revealing a deeper, more profound darkness within. The attic door is a dark sliver, a silent invitation to a place your great aunt feared above all else. You stand at the end of the hall, your hand on the cold wood of the doorframe, and you feel the icy draft coming from the crack. You've come this far. You have to go in. You take a deep breath, the cold air burning your lungs, and push the door open with a slow, deliberate creak. It groans on its hinges, the sound a horrible, drawn-out wail that seems to fill the entire house. The light from your flashlight cuts through the darkness, illuminating a cavernous space filled with forgotten things. The attic is a museum of decay, a graveyard for memories. Old furniture, covered in cobwebs, sits in a silent tableau. Trunks are stacked high in a corner, their leather straps brittle and broken. The air is thick with the smell of dust and dry rot, a smell that clings to the back of your throat. But in the center of the room, you see something that makes you freeze. A child's rocking horse, painted a faded blue, sits perfectly still in a puddle of dust. As you move deeper into the room, your footsteps are swallowed by the dust and silence. The attic is much bigger than you thought. It seems to stretch into the darkness, the beam of your flashlight not strong enough to reach the far corners. You feel a familiar feeling of being watched, but this time it's more intense, more palpable. It feels as if a dozen unseen eyes are on you, watching you from the shadows. You sweep your flashlight around the room, trying to catch a glimpse of what's there. The beam lands on a wall, and you see something that makes your blood run cold. There, on the dusty, peeling plaster, is a drawing. It's a child's drawing, but unlike any you've ever seen. It's done in what looks like charcoal, and it depicts a group of stick figures holding hands, all of them with wide, terrified eyes, and in the middle of the circle, a tall, shadowy figure with no face stands, its long, spindly arms raised as if in a blessing or a curse. The figure is black, a void on the wall, and it's surrounded by what looks like tiny, screaming faces. The drawing is crude, but the emotion in it is terrifyingly clear. It's a drawing of pure, unadulterated fear. You can almost hear the children's silent screams. This drawing reminds you of a real, chilling historical event, the Cleveland torso murders of the 1930s. The killer, often called the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run, left his victims' dismembered bodies scattered across the Cleveland area. A series of grotesque tableaus that shocked the nation. The police, including a young Elliot Ness, were never able to catch the killer, and the case remains unsolved. The sheer, incomprehensible horror of the crime echoes the raw terror you feel from the drawing on the wall. A strange, eerie bit of folklore comes to mind. The concept of thought forms, or tulpas, entities said to be created by the collective consciousness and belief of a group of people. Some occult traditions believe that if enough people fear something, that fear can manifest as a physical or semi-physical entity. The child's drawing and the fear it contains feels like a physical manifestation of that concept, a tangible embodiment of a shared terror. Historians still debate whether the Cleveland torso murderer was a singular killer or a serial killer operating with a partner. But the primal fear associated with the case is something you feel in this attic. It's the fear of a monster you can't see, a monster that leaves no trace but pure animalistic terror. You move closer to the drawing, your flashlight beam trembling. You touch the wall, and the charcoal feels cold and dusty under your fingers. You can feel the fear radiating from the drawing, a psychic residue of whatever happened here. The shadows in the corner of the attic seem to deepen, and you can almost feel them pulsing, a slow, malevolent heartbeat in the darkness. You turn your flashlight away from the drawing, and when you look back, you see something that makes you gasp. The shadow figure on the wall seems to have moved. Its spindly arms are now pointed directly at you, a silent, damning gesture. The child's drawing on the wall feels like a direct accusation. The shadowy figure's arms, you're certain, have moved, now pointing a long, dark finger directly at you. You back away, your heart hammering a frantic rhythm against your ribs. The air in the attic is heavy and cold, and the silence is a physical presence that presses in on you from all sides. You want to run to get out, to pretend you never saw this house or the cursed box it came in, but something holds you there, a terrible magnetism pulling you deeper into the darkness. Your flashlight beam sweeps away from the wall, and as it does, you catch a glimpse of movement, a faint, almost imperceptible swaying. You turn the light back, and it lands on the rocking horse. The old toy, which was still a moment ago, is now gently rocking back and forth. The motion is slow, steady, and deliberate. There's no breeze in the attic, no one there to push it. The horse rocks as if a child were sitting on it, but the saddle is empty. The silence is broken only by the soft creak, creak, creak of the horse's wooden runners on the dusty floor. It's an unnerving sound, and it seems to be in perfect harmony with the pulse of your own fear. You take a step closer, your boots sinking into the thick dust. The rocking horse is old and faded, its painted eyes worn down to the bare wood. The motion is impossibly smooth, never speeding up or slowing down. It just keeps rocking. You shine your light on the floor around it, looking for a string or a wire, some mundane explanation for the macabre spectacle. But there's nothing, just dust, and the deep, dark shadows that seem to be watching you from the corners of the room. The creak, creak, creak seems to grow louder, or maybe it's just your imagination amplifying the sound. This silent, ghostly motion brings to mind the case of the Poveglia Island Plague Hospital. Located near Venice, the island was used as a quarantine station for plague victims, and later became a mental asylum. Accounts from the asylum's later years claimed patients and staff saw the ghosts of the plague victims and the restless dead, leading to a long and gruesome history. Today, the island is completely abandoned and off-limits to visitors. The idea that a place could be so steeped in suffering that the pain leaves a permanent mark, manifesting as a haunting, feels terrifyingly real in this attic. The rocking horse feels like a piece of a tragic story, a memory playing itself on a loop. A bizarre bit of occult trivia you once read surfaces in your mind. Psychic residue, or stone tape theory. This fringe idea suggests that particularly emotional or traumatic events can be recorded into the physical environment, like the walls of a house or the very ground beneath your feet. It's as if the house itself is a recording device, playing back scenes of intense emotion for anyone sensitive enough to perceive them. The rocking horse isn't a ghost, you think. It's a memory. But if that's true, whose memory is it, and what other memories are waiting to be played for you? Historians still debate whether the stories of Poveglia Island's haunting were based in reality, or were simply a byproduct of the island's grim history. But as the rocking horse creaks back and forth, you feel a deep, chilling sense of tragedy in the air. The terror isn't just about being scared. It's about being in the presence of something profoundly sad and wrong. The horse slows to a stop, its motion now so slight you can barely perceive it. But as you watch, it stops not with a final, slow creak, but abruptly. It's a silence so total it's deafening. And in that silence, you hear a new sound. It's a low, guttural humming, coming from somewhere in the deepest part of the attic, just beyond the reach of your flashlight beam. It sounds like 1,000 voices humming a single, mournful note. And you realize, with a sick feeling in your stomach, that the horse wasn't rocking on its own. It was a rhythm, and the humming just picked up where it left off. The humming is a low, throbbing sound that seems to come from all directions at once. It's not human, not animal. It's a sound of pure malevolence, a chorus of cold, ancient voices that makes the air feel thick and heavy. You back away slowly, your footfalls silent in the dust. The flashlight beam shakes in your hand, its light suddenly feeling weak and fragile against the immense darkness of the attic. The humming grows louder, a sickening drone that vibrates through the floorboards and into your very bones. It's like a song sung by something that doesn't have lungs. You stumble backward, trying to find your way to the attic door. The layout of the room, which seemed so simple moments ago, now feels like a tangled, impossible maze. Every trunk and every piece of shrouded furniture looks the same. A white, silent ghost waiting to trip you up. The humming is so loud now, so all-consuming, that it's almost painful. It feels like a physical presence, a pressure on your eardrums and against your skin. You can't think, you can't breathe. All you can do is stand there, paralyzed by the sound. And then, just as suddenly as it started, the humming stops. The silence that follows is so profound, so absolute. It feels even worse than the noise. The only sound is the frantic pounding of your own heart. You stand there for a moment, completely still, trying to regain your bearings. You hear a sound then. It's a new sound, a different sound. It's a sound that makes the blood in your veins turn to ice. It's the sound of a voice, your voice, speaking from the darkness behind you. "Hello," it says. It's a perfect imitation of your own tone, your own pitch. It sounds a little confused, a little scared. It's a question you've been asking yourself, a question you've been too afraid to voice out loud. You spin around, your flashlight beam cutting through the gloom. There's nothing there. You turn back around, and you hear the voice again. "Is anyone there?" it asks, still in your voice. But this time, it's closer, much closer. You feel a cold breath on the back of your neck. This creepy ability to mimic a victim's voice has a historical precedent in a lot of folklore, particularly in tales of doppelgangers. These ghostly doubles are said to be harbingers of bad luck or even death. A historical example that comes to mind is that of Emily Sagi, a 19th century French teacher who was said to be haunted by her own doppelganger. It would appear at the same time as her, mimicking her movements and actions, and was so unsettling that she was forced to resign from multiple teaching jobs. The students and faculty at her schools all saw it, and its appearance was so unnerving that it caused widespread panic wherever she went. The idea that a spiritual double could exist and mimic your every move is horrifying. But the idea that it's trapped with you in an attic is a whole new level of terror. You shine your flashlight around frantically. The beam lands on a cracked, dusty mirror propped up against a pile of old books. You see your reflection, pale and terrified, staring back at you. And for a split second, you see something else, a tall, gaunt figure, its body a silhouette of pure darkness, standing directly behind you in the mirror. It's faceless, its long arms hanging at its side, its head tilted slightly to the side, as if it's studying you. You blink, and the figure is gone, but the feeling of its presence is still there, a cold, suffocating weight. A weird bit of occult lore that you remember reading about is the concept of a mirror spirit, a ghost or entity that can only be seen through a reflection. This belief is particularly strong in many different cultures, who often cover mirrors in a house where someone has recently died to prevent their soul from being trapped inside. The figure in the mirror wasn't in the room with you, but it saw you, and you saw it. Historians still debate whether the stories of Emily Sagi were a result of mass hysteria or a genuine paranormal phenomenon. But as you stare at the empty mirror, you feel a profound sense of violation. This thing, this presence, isn't just in the house. It's following you. It knows you, and it's learning from you. You feel a cold hand on your shoulder, and your voice, a perfect, chilling echo of your own, whispers in your ear, "We've been waiting for you." The cold touch on your shoulder is more than just a feeling. It's a physical presence. You can feel the tips of its fingers, icy and hard, pressing into the fabric of your coat. The whisper in your ear, your own voice, is a gut-wrenching confirmation that you're no longer just an observer. You're the main character in this horror story, and the climax is about to begin. You spin around, swinging the flashlight with you, and the beam cuts a wide, frantic arc through the dark. Nothing. The touch is gone, the whisper is gone, and you're alone again. But you're not alone. The space where the hand was feels impossibly cold, a burning absence of heat on your skin. You back away from the mirror, your hands up, as if to ward off an invisible attacker. The shadows in the attic seem to have a life of their own now. They twist and writhe, forming shapes that are almost human, almost recognizable. You see a tall, slender form in the corner, its outline a perfect match for the figure you saw in the mirror. It doesn't move, but you can feel it watching you, its gaze a tangible pressure on your back. It's like a predator studying its prey, learning its weaknesses before it strikes. This terrifying sense of being watched from the shadows is a classic element in many hauntings, and a historical case that comes to mind is the Bell Witch of Tennessee. This 19th century poltergeist was said to haunt the Bell family, tormenting them with a variety of unexplained phenomena, including disembodied voices, physical attacks, and the movement of objects. What made the case so chilling was the entity's ability to imitate voices, and its apparent hatred for the family patriarch, John Bell. The parallels between the Bell Witch and the presence in this attic are hard to ignore. The entity here is not just a ghost. It's an intelligent, malevolent force, and it has a plan for you. A weird bit of folklore you recall is the concept of mortal fear. As a food source for entities, this occult idea suggests that spirits or demons don't just feed on negative energy. They feed on the raw, unrefined terror of their victims. The more terrified you are, the stronger they become. You can almost feel it now. The way your fear is a buffet for this thing. Your heart pounds, your breath comes in short, ragged gasps, and the air around you feels even colder. It's feeding on you, it's savoring your terror, growing in strength and malevolence with every shuddering breath you take. Historians still debate whether the Bell Witch was a genuine haunting or a sophisticated hoax orchestrated by a neighbor. But the sense of being hunted, of being a target, feels entirely real here. This is not some random residual haunting. This thing is personal. It knew you were coming. It knew your name. It knows your voice. The attic seems to shrink, the walls closing in on you. The shadows form a perfect circle around you, a dark, suffocating cage. You feel a cold hand on your arm, and you flinch, but it doesn't let go. You look down, and you see a hand. It's not a shadow, it's a physical hand, a pale, gaunt hand with long, spindly fingers wrapped around your arm. It feels impossibly cold, the temperature of death. The skin is translucent, and you can see the veins, and tendons underneath. A network of blue and gray. You gasp, trying to pull away, but the grip is impossibly strong. The hand tightens, and the tips of its fingers dig into your flesh. You look up, and you see the thing. It's a tall, hunched figure, its face a swirling vortex of shadows and light. It's not human, not anymore. Its eyes are two glowing points of red, like embers in a dark fireplace. Its mouth is a gash of blackness, and from it, you hear a sound that makes your sanity fray at the edges. It's your own voice again, but distorted, a warped, humming parody of your own tone. It's laughing. A long, drawn-out, cold, and terrible laugh that echoes in the silent attic. The cold hand on your arm tightens, the phantom grip burning like dry ice. The figure in front of you, a swirling maelstrom of shadow and malice, seems to solidify with every shuddering breath you take. Its glowing red eyes lock onto yours, and you feel a profound sense of recognition. It's not just a monster, it's the monster, the one from the child's drawing on the wall, the faceless entity your great aunt wrote about in her journal. It's here, and it has you. Its laugh, a twisted mockery of your own voice, echoes in the silent attic, a sound of pure, unadulterated triumph. You try to scream, but your throat is frozen. Your lungs refuse to take a breath. The hand on your arm pulls you forward, and you stumble closer to the grotesque figure. It's impossibly tall and thin, its limbs like sticks, and its face is a churning void. You can see things in the void, fleeting images that make your stomach turn. A twisted face of a man, a child with its eyes rolled back in its head, a woman with a silent scream on her face. It's showing you its victims. It's a trophy room of souls. The cold seeps into you, a feeling of hopelessness and despair so overwhelming you want to give up, to simply fall into the welcoming embrace of the freezing floor. The laugh finally subsides, and the figure tilts its head, its red eyes studying you. A new sound emerges from the gash of its mouth. It's a faint, distorted melody, a music box playing a warped lullaby. It's the same song you heard in your mind back at the start, when you first opened the box. It's a tune you've never heard before, but it feels ancient and familiar. A song that has been waiting for you your entire life. The notes are off-key and discordant, a grating, haunting melody that makes your teeth ache. The music box melody gets louder, a siren song that beckons you to the void of its face. You find yourself leaning in, drawn by the tune, a hypnotic pull you can't resist. This horrific phenomenon of a malevolent presence using a familiar sound to draw a person in has been documented in many real-life ghost stories and historical events. One such case is the Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Kentucky. It was a tuberculosis hospital in the early 20th century, and due to the sheer number of deaths, it is considered one of the most haunted places in the world. Visitors to the abandoned hospital have often reported hearing phantom music, whispers, and cries for help, particularly in the body chute. a tunnel used to transport the dead, the music in the sanatorium, like the music here, is believed to be a tool used by the spirits to lure the living to their deaths. A bizarre tidbit of occult lore you remember reading about is the concept of resonant frequencies and their use in magic. The idea is that every person and every place has a specific frequency, and if a spirit can match that frequency, it can control or influence the person or the environment. The music box melody you're hearing feels like a perfect example of this. A tune calibrated to your own personal frequency, a key to your soul. It's not just a song, it's a binding spell, a magical chain being wrapped around your mind. You can feel it, the way the melody is weaving itself into the fabric of your thoughts, making it hard to think, hard to resist. Historians still debate whether the paranormal activity at Waverly Hills was a result of genuine hauntings or a product of the human imagination reacting to the gruesome history. But the melody you're hearing is undeniably real. It's not in your head. It's in the room with you, a living, breathing song of death. The figure pulls you closer, and the cold seeps deeper into your body. You can almost feel the end now, the final plunge into the cold, silent darkness of the void. You are frozen, a moth drawn to a deadly flame, and the only thing that's keeping you from completely giving in is the raw, animalistic terror that has taken hold of you. You are on the precipice, and the music is playing your swan song. The distorted music box lullaby is an invisible chain, yanking you toward the figure in front of you. You can't fight it. The cold hand on your arm is still there, its grip a constant, agonizing pressure. The red eyes of the entity bore into you, and you feel your own will crumbling, your mind giving way to the hypnotic pull of the music. You're no longer you. You're an empty vessel, a puppet being pulled on strings by a malevolent force. The attic itself seems to hum with the melody, the air filled with the same discordant notes. You feel yourself sinking, losing all sense of time and place, all sense of yourself. And then something happens. A flicker. The lights in the attic, the ones that were long dead and gone, flicker on for a split second, then off again. It's so fast, so abrupt, that you almost think you imagined it, but the grip on your arm loosens, and the music box melody falters. It's not gone, but it's weak, a thin, wavering sound. The figure in front of you seems to lose its cohesion, its form dissolving for a moment, then reforming. It's a jolt of clarity, a moment of sanity in the sea of madness. You're still you. You're still here. And you're still alive. You have to fight. You yank your arm away from the figure, the skin on your arm screaming in pain where the cold touch was. The entity hisses, a sound of pure hatred, and the music box melody swells again, desperate and angry. You stumble back, your flashlight beam dancing across the walls, and you see something new, a collection of small, almost microscopic, carvings on a wooden beam near the ceiling. They're tiny symbols, glyphs you don't recognize, and they're glowing with a faint, pulsing blue light. It's an energy you haven't seen before. It's beautiful, and it's the only thing in the attic that isn't terrified. This sudden, inexplicable manifestation of light and symbols brings to mind the real-life historical account of the Crooked Forest in Poland, where a grove of pine trees grows in a strange, U-shaped formation. The cause is unknown, but local legends say that the trees were bent by a supernatural force or a magical spell. The odd, unsettling, and beautiful phenomenon in this forest has no scientific explanation, and the carvings on the beam feel similarly unexplainable. A strange, beautiful, and powerful mystery. They feel like a counterpoint to the ugliness and the malice of the entity. A bizarre bit of folklore you remember from your research on the occult is the concept of wards, or spirit traps, a practice found in many different magical traditions. Wards are said to be symbols or rituals that create a barrier or a seal to protect a place from spirits and other entities. The carvings on the beam feel like a ward, a powerful magical barrier that is, for some reason, failing. The blue light pulses, a silent, desperate cry for help. And you realize that this house isn't just a graveyard for souls, it's a prison. And the entity is the prisoner. Historians still debate whether the Crooked Forest was a result of a supernatural event or a human-led effort to shape the trees for a practical purpose. But the feeling you get from the symbols is not of a practical purpose. It's a feeling of power, of ancient knowledge, and of a last desperate attempt to contain something that should have never been freed. You look from the glowing symbols to the entity, which is now convulsing, its form flickering and shrinking. It's not a hallucination. The light from the symbols is hurting it. It's a last, flickering breath of resistance from a long-dead force. And you realize your great-aunt's journal, her terrified account, her final, frantic words about the attic door. They weren't a warning. They were a plea for help, a plea for you to finish what she started. The entity convulses, its form flickering like a bad reception on an old television. The music box melody is a frantic, shrieking sound, a high-pitched whine of pure agony. The hand on your arm is gone now, the cold replaced by a burning, phantom pain. The tiny, glowing glyphs on the beam above you are your only allies, the only thing in this house that doesn't want you dead. You stumble back, your mind still reeling from the sudden, jarring shift from utter despair to a fragile, desperate hope. You are not just a victim. You have a part to play. You look from the symbols to the figure, and you understand. The house isn't just a place where something terrible happened. It's a cage, and the key you have, the strange, bird-shaped key, isn't for opening doors. It's for locking them. Your great-aunt didn't just write a journal about her fear. She was giving you a warning. Her words weren't a plea for help. They were instructions. You feel a surge of energy, of renewed purpose. The terror is still there, a cold knot in your stomach, but now it's mixed with a strange, fierce resolve. You came here looking for answers, and now you have them. You have to finish what she couldn't. This whole process of using ancient symbols to contain something supernatural is a staple of many myths and legends. Take, for example, the concept of sigils in ceremonial magic, where a symbol is created and charged with a specific intent, often to protect, bind, or banish a spirit. Many cultures, including some European folklore, and even certain modern occult practices, believe that these symbols can act as spiritual locks, containing forces that exist outside of our normal reality. The glowing glyphs on the beam feel like a powerful, ancient sigil, a lock on a door that should never have been opened. A weird historical tidbit you remember from your research is the use of witch bottles in 17th century England. These were bottles filled with a person's urine, nails, and hair, and then sealed and buried in the ground to protect a house from a witch's curse. The concept was to draw in and contain the witch's evil energy, a strange but a surprisingly effective form of folk magic. The idea of using a container to trap a malevolent force is ancient and universal, and you can see the parallels to the house and the glowing glyphs. The house is the bottle, and the glyphs are the seal. Historians still debate whether the use of witch bottles was a form of genuine magic or a psychological practice used to give people a sense of control over an unknown threat. But the feeling you get from the glyphs is not of a psychological game. It's a feeling of raw, untamed power. The symbols are a living, breathing thing, and they're fighting to keep the entity from breaking free. The entity, in its thrashing and shrieking, is trying to break them, to shatter the cage that has held it for so long. You have to act fast. You have to find a way to complete the seal, to reinforce the lock. And you have a feeling that the key in your pocket is the final piece of the puzzle. The only problem is, you're not sure how to use it. You look around the attic, the light from your flashlight illuminating a path through the scattered relics of a forgotten life. The entity is still thrashing, a swirling vortex of anger and fear. The music box melody is now a constant, ear-splitting whine. You have to find something, a clue, a ritual, anything to help you. And then you see it. Tucked away in a corner, under a pile of old blankets, is a small, hand-painted wooden box. It's the same kind of box you found at your door, but smaller. And the carving is of the same kind of spiraling, twisting vines. You run to it, your boots kicking up clouds of dust. You can feel the entity's eyes on your back. Its malevolence, a palpable weight. It's angry. It knows what you're about to do, and it's not going to let you do it. The small wooden box is cold and unyielding to the touch, its surface covered in the same intricate, twisting vine carvings as the larger box. You can feel the entity's presence behind you, a cold, suffocating wave of malice. It's no longer thrashing. It's still. It knows you're onto it. It knows you're getting close to the truth. And it's not going to let you get there. You can feel its anger, a physical weight in the air, a burning pressure on your skin. You have to work fast. The flashlight beam shakes in your hand as you try to open the box. There's no clasp, no lock, nothing you can see. The lid is seamless, a single piece of wood. You run your fingers over the carvings, looking for a seam or a button, a secret mechanism that will open it. Nothing. The entity behind you is silent, but you can feel it approaching. The air grows impossibly cold, and you can smell something horrible, a sickening smell of decay and rust. You can hear a faint scraping sound on the dusty floor, the sound of something dragging itself closer. The light from the glyphs on the beam above you flickers, its blue light a frantic, desperate pulse. The entity is feeding on the energy of the ward, trying to break its power. It's a race against time. This idea of a hidden box with a secret mechanism is a staple of many legends and historical puzzles. One of the most famous examples is the Ptolemy's tomb, the final resting place of Alexander the Great. Its location has been lost for centuries, and many believe it was secured with complex traps and hidden mechanisms to keep looters from disturbing the great general's sleep. The box in your hands feels like it holds a similar secret, a key to a truth that was meant to be kept hidden forever. A strange bit of occult trivia you remember from your reading is the concept of sympathetic magic, the belief that things that are similar to each other can influence one another. The box you hold is a miniature version of the one you received. It's a key to the house itself, a representation of the house's physical and spiritual form. You realize, with a sudden jolt, that the key you have isn't for the house, it's for this box. It's a lock. Historians still debate the true location of Alexander the Great's tomb, but the feeling you get from this box is not one of a myth. It's real. The box is a puzzle, and the key in your pocket is the only thing that can solve it. You pull the bird-shaped key from your pocket. It's cold and heavy in your hand. You look at the box, and you see it. On the underside, where the twisting vines meet, is a small depression. It's the same shape as the key. You slide the key into the depression, and it clicks into place with a soft, final sound. The box shudders in your hands, and the lid springs open with a snap. Inside, nestled on a bed of blood-red velvet, is a single, folded piece of paper. You can hear the entity's hiss behind you, a sound of pure, unadulterated fury. It knows. It knows what's on that paper. It knows that this is the end of its freedom, the end of its game. You have to get to the paper. You reach in, your fingers trembling, and pull the paper out. As you do, a long, slender white hand with long, black nails shoots out from the shadows and grabs the paper, its grip impossibly strong. The entity wants it back. It knows this is the end. The cold, slender hand clutches the parchment, its grip as strong as steel. You're locked in a silent tug-of-war, the entity trying to rip the paper from your grasp. Its touch is a burning cold, a pain that sears through your skin and into your bones. The paper itself feels alive, crackling with a strange energy, as if it's screaming a silent protest. The music box melody swells again, angry and frantic, a high-pitched shriek that makes your head throb. You can feel the entity's hatred for you, a physical wave of malice that makes you want to drop the paper and run. But you can't. You have to fight. You have to hold on. This silent, physical struggle brings to mind a morbid historical case, the case of the London sickness. In 1665, during the Great Plague, a widespread panic took over London. People would collapse, seemingly from a mysterious ailment, and doctors were baffled. Some occultists believed that these were not physical illnesses, but a form of psychic attack from a malevolent spirit, a so-called spirit of the plague that would latch onto its victims and drain their life force. The entity's grip on the paper feels like a similar attack, a desperate attempt to drain your will and your energy. A weird piece of occult trivia you remember from your reading is the concept of spirit binding, a ritual used to trap and contain a malevolent entity. The ritual often involves a physical object, a container, and a specific set of words or symbols. The parchment in your hand feels like the final piece of the ritual, the key to the binding. The entity knows this. It knows that if you get the paper, if you can read the words on it, its freedom is over. The struggle is not just about a piece of paper. It's about a soul. It's about freedom and eternal damnation. Historians still debate whether the London sickness was a legitimate psychic phenomenon or a byproduct of the sheer terror of the plague. But the cold that is radiating from the hand that holds the paper is so real, so profound, that you can't imagine it's anything but a genuine attack. The entity is fighting for its life, or what's left of it. You push back, your muscles screaming in protest, and you manage to get a glimpse of the paper. It's filled with symbols, the same symbols from the glowing glyphs on the beam above you, and at the bottom, a single looping word, lock. It's an instruction, a command, a key to the entire puzzle. You yank with all your might, and the entity hisses, a sound of pure agony. Its grip loosens for a second, and you pull the paper free. It flutters to the floor, and you stumble backward, gasping for breath, your arm burning with a phantom cold. The entity screeches, a high-pitched wail that fills the attic. It's no longer a silent predator. It's a wounded animal. It lunges at you, a swirling vortex of shadow and malice, its red eyes glowing with an unbearable intensity. You have to get out. Now, you turn and run, your boots pounding on the dusty floorboards. The entity is right behind you, its movements silent, its presence a cold, suffocating weight. You can feel its breath on the back of your neck, a freezing wind of pure hate. You're running for your life, running from a nightmare that has become a terrible reality. You make it to the attic door, your hand fumbling for the knob. It's slick with dust, but you manage to twist it and pull. The door opens with a long, drawn-out wail, and you stumble out into the dark hallway, slamming the door shut behind you. But you can still hear the screaming. The entity is trapped, but so are you. The wail from the other side of the attic door is a raw, agonizing sound, a primal scream of fury and defeat. You press your back against the door, your breath coming in short, ragged gasps. The cold hand on your arm is gone, but the phantom pain remains, a burning reminder of the thing on the other side. You can feel the door shuddering behind you, as if the entity is throwing its body against it. A frantic, desperate effort to get to you. You are safe for now, but you are not free. The attic door is a prison, but you are still inside the walls. You stand there for a long moment, listening to the screams from the attic. They are not just screams of anger. They are screams of 1,000 voices, a chorus of pain and sorrow. You can hear a woman crying, a child weeping, a man groaning in agony. It's a sound of pure suffering, a haunting melody that tears at your soul. You feel a strange sense of empathy for the thing on the other side of the door. It's not just a monster. It's a collection of all the souls it has consumed. A living, breathing graveyard of memories and pain. This sense of an entity being a collective of trapped souls is a recurring theme in many myths and legends. One of the most famous historical accounts is that of the Weeping Woman, or La Llorona, a figure from Mexican folklore. According to the legend, she was a woman who drowned her children in a river out of a fit of madness. And now she wanders the banks, weeping for her lost children and luring others to their deaths. While the legend has many variations, the core idea is the same. A soul so tormented by its past that it becomes a monster, preying on the living. The sound of the voices from the attic, a cacophony of lost souls, reminds you of this terrible legend. A weird piece of occult trivia you remember from your reading is the concept of soul traps, a form of black magic used to capture a person's soul and bind it to an object or a place. The house, you now realize, is a massive soul trap. The entity isn't just a monster. It's a living, breathing collection of the souls that were trapped here over the centuries. Your great-aunt knew this. She knew that the house had a terrible secret. She knew that the key wasn't for opening a door. It was for closing one. She knew that the house was a cage, and the entity was a prisoner. Historians still debate whether the legend of La Llorona has a historical basis, or if it's a cautionary tale to keep children from wandering too close to a river at night. But the feeling you get from the attic door is not one of a cautionary tale. It's real. The door is a barrier between you and a terrible truth, a truth you are now a part of. The screams from the attic die down, replaced by a low, guttural humming. The same horrible, ancient sound you heard before. It's no longer a shriek of agony. It's a sound of pure, unadulterated rage. It's not over. It's just beginning. You turn and run, your boots pounding on the dusty floorboards, the sound of frantic beat in the silent house. You don't know where you're going. You just know you have to get out. You run down the stairs, past the study, and into the parlor, your flashlight beam dancing wildly, a tiny, terrified circle in the vast darkness. The house is silent now, but it's not a restful silence. It's a tense, expectant silence, the kind of silence you get before a storm. You can feel the house watching you, its many eyes following your every move. It's no longer just an old building. It's a living, breathing entity, and it's furious with you. The silence of the house is now a suffocating blanket. Thick with a palpable tension, you've slammed the attic door, but you can feel the entire building vibrating with a low, furious hum, a sound of contained, incandescent rage. The thing you just trapped, the one you barely escaped, isn't gone. It's just waiting. You're running on pure instinct now, your flashlight beam a frantic, dancing beacon in the oppressive gloom. You stumble through the parlor, past the shrouded furniture, each lump under a sheet, looking more menacing than the last. You make it to the front door, your hand fumbling for the knob. It's cold and slick, and you twist it with a frantic urgency. The door doesn't budge. It's locked. You push and pull, your shoulder slamming against the solid wood, but the door holds firm. It's not just locked, it's sealed. You can feel a new, powerful force holding it shut from the outside. You're trapped. You're in a living, breathing prison, a cage with a very angry prisoner just a few yards away. The house has you now. It's no longer a passive stage for a ghost story. It's an active participant, a predator that has just cornered its prey. This feeling of a house physically trapping its occupants is a core part of many haunting legends. One of the most famous historical cases is the Screaming House of Union, Maine. In the late 19th century, a family moved into a newly built house that immediately began to terrorize them. The family claimed that the house would physically move objects, slam doors shut, and lock them in rooms as if it had a malevolent will of its own. The house became a local legend, a place so feared that no one dared live in it for years after the family left. Your own terror is a direct echo of theirs, a modern nightmare in an old, forgotten house. A weird bit of occult lore that comes to mind is the concept of a genius loci, a term from Roman mythology that means the spirit of a place. This spirit is believed to be the protector and keeper of a location, whether it be a house, a forest, or a city. In some esoteric traditions, if the spirit of a place is corrupted or angered, it can turn on its inhabitants, using the very environment as a weapon. This house, you realize, has a terrible genius loci, a spirit that has been corrupted by the evil it contains. The house is not just a building. It's an extension of the entity, a physical manifestation of its will. Historians still debate whether the Screaming House of Union, Maine, was a real paranormal event or a case of a family's collective psychological distress. But the fact that you can't get the door open feels entirely real. The lock on the door is not a physical one, it's a psychic one. You are a rat in a maze, and the walls are closing in. You back away from the door, your heart pounding a frantic rhythm against your ribs. You have to find another way out, the windows. You run to the nearest one, a tall, arched window in the parlor, and try to open it. It's painted shut, the wood warped with age. You hit the glass with your fist, but it holds firm. A thick, impenetrable pane that laughs at your futile attempts. You are alone, surrounded by a malevolent force, and your only hope of survival is to find a way out. But a quiet, insidious thought creeps into your mind. What if the house doesn't want to kill you? What if it wants to trap you, just like all the other souls? What if you are to become a part of the humming chorus, a new voice in the terrible song? The thought is more terrifying than death itself. You can almost feel the house smiling. The house has sealed itself shut. You are trapped, a living offering in a dead place. The humming from the attic has stopped, and in its place is a chilling, profound silence. You can feel the entity on the other side of the door, waiting, watching. It knows you're in its house, and it knows you can't get out. The air around you feels thick, heavy with anticipation, as if the very atoms are holding their breath. The only sound is the frantic rhythm of your own heart, a drumbeat of pure terror. You stumble through the parlor, your flashlight beam dancing across the shrouded furniture. Each piece of cloth looks like a waiting specter, a silent figure watching your every move. You feel a creeping dread, a sense of being hunted. You can almost feel the entity's eyes on you, a burning pressure on your back. You turn and run, your boots thudding on the dusty floorboards, the sound a desperate echo in the vast silence. You run up the stairs, but not to the attic. You run to the second floor, a place you haven't explored yet. You have to find a way out. This feeling of being trapped in a house that has a will of its own is a common theme in many historical accounts of hauntings, and a case that comes to mind is the Franklin Castle in Ohio. This late 19th century mansion was the site of numerous deaths and tragedies, leading to rumors of a haunting. Visitors to the house have reported hearing phantom voices, seeing disembodied shadows, and experiencing the house physically locking them in rooms or on a particular floor. The house itself became a character in the haunting, an active participant in the terrifying events. A weird bit of occult lore that you remember from your reading is the concept of a death house, a place so steeped in tragedy and death that it becomes a vortex for spiritual energy. These places are said to absorb the pain and suffering of their inhabitants, and that energy can then be used by a malevolent spirit to manifest and torment the living. The house you're in feels exactly like that, a terrible repository of suffering, a monument to the dead. The silence isn't empty. It's filled with the echoes of 100 different screams, 1,000 different despairs. Historians still debate whether the paranormal activity at Franklin Castle was a result of a genuine haunting or a series of convenient coincidences. But the feeling you get from this house is not of a coincidence. It's real. The house is a living, breathing entity, and it's angry. You reach the second floor, and you turn down a long, dark hallway. The doors to the rooms are all closed, and you don't dare open them. You don't know what's on the other side. You don't want to know. You can feel the cold radiating from the walls, a physical manifestation of the house's anger. It's a bone-deep cold, the kind that makes you shiver and sends a wave of nausea through your stomach. You hear a sound then, a soft, wet thump from one of the closed rooms, then another, and another. The sound is slow, methodical, a steady beat that echoes in the silent hallway. It's coming from behind the door at the end of the hall. You freeze, your flashlight beam shaking in your hand. What is it? What could possibly be making that sound? You can feel a cold sweat on your forehead. You take a step back, and you hear a new sound, a faint, dragging noise, as if something heavy is being pulled across the floor. It's coming from inside the room. The sound stops, and you hear a new sound. It's a low, wet, squishing sound. You can't stand it. You have to know. You walk slowly toward the door at the end of the hall, your heart pounding a frantic rhythm against your ribs. You reach the door, your hand trembling. You press your ear against the cold wood, and you hear a new sound. It's a faint, almost inaudible slurping. And then, from inside the room, a child's voice, a sweet, innocent voice, says, "Hello." The child's voice from the other side of the door is a small, melodic needle in the vast, terrifying silence of the house. It's a sound of pure innocence, so out of place in this mausoleum of a building that it feels like a trick, a cruel, beautiful lie. "Hello," it asks again, a sweet, questioning sound that makes the hairs on your arms stand on end. You want to believe it. You want to throw the door open and find a lost child to save them from this house. But you remember the child's drawing in the attic, the terrified stick figures, the faceless entity. You remember the voices from the attic, a chorus of pain and sorrow. You know what this place does to children. You take a step back from the door, your heart pounding. The voice asks a third time, "Can you come play?" The innocence in the tone is so perfect, so heartbreaking, that it's almost unbearable. You shake your head, trying to clear your mind, to fight the hypnotic pull of the voice. It's a trap. It has to be. The voice is a lure, a spider's web woven with the threads of human compassion. You turn and run, your boots pounding on the dusty floorboards, leaving the sweet voice behind. You can hear it calling after you, the sound a mix of sadness and a faint, subtle anger. "Don't you want to play?" It asks, the last word a whisper of pure malice. This phenomenon of a spirit using a child's voice to lure victims is a classic element of many paranormal legends. One of the most famous historical accounts is that of the White House's ghostly children. For centuries, staff and visitors have reported hearing the sounds of phantom children running and laughing in the halls of the White House, particularly in the Lincoln bedroom. While these sounds are often seen as harmless, Some mediums and paranormal investigators believe them to be residual hauntings, the echoes of a lost time, while others believe them to be a more malevolent presence, a trap for the unwary. A strange bit of occult lore that you remember from your reading is the concept of a psychic anchor, an object or a sound that is so imbued with a specific emotion that it can manifest a ghost or an entity, a child's voice, a rocking horse, a music box. These things are all powerful psychic anchors, imbued with a deep sense of innocence and vulnerability that a malevolent entity can exploit. The child's voice you heard wasn't a ghost, it was a recording, a memory of a lost soul being played by the house to lure you in. Historians still debate whether the White House's hauntings are a result of genuine paranormal activity or a long-standing tradition of staff and visitors playing pranks. But the feeling you get from the child's voice is not one of a prank. It's real. The voice is a weapon, and it's being used against you. You run down the hallway, your body screaming in protest. You need to find a place to hide, a place to think, a place to regain your bearings. You duck into a room, a small, dark bedroom, and slam the door shut behind you. You lean against it, your chest heaving, listening to the silence of the house. You can still hear the whisper of the child's voice, a faint, taunting echo in your mind. Don't you want to play? You lean against the bedroom door, your body a mass of shivering nerves. The child's voice from the hallway has stopped, but you can still hear its echo in your head, a taunting, melodic sound. You feel a creeping dread, a sense of being trapped and hunted. The silence of the house is no longer a comfort. It's a promise of something terrible to come. You slide down the door to the floor, your back pressed against the cold wood, and you turn your flashlight on yourself. Your hands are shaking uncontrollably, and you can see a fine sheen of sweat on your forehead. You're not just scared, you're terrified. You sit there for a long time, listening to the silence, your senses on high alert. You expect to hear something, footsteps in the hall, a whisper from the corner, the creak of a door, but there's nothing. The silence is profound, a deep, heavy quiet that feels unnatural. It's the kind of silence you get after a tornado has passed, a moment of profound stillness before the world rushes back in. And in that stillness, you realize something. You're no longer in control of this situation. You were a curious visitor, but now you're a trapped animal. The house is the predator, and you are its prey. This feeling of a house being a living, malevolent entity is a classic horror trope, and a historical case that comes to mind is the Sally House in Atchison, Kansas. This seemingly innocuous suburban home is said to be haunted by a violent and deeply malevolent entity, a spirit that would physically attack its inhabitants, leaving them with deep scratches and welts. The entity was so aggressive that it would burn and cut the furniture, and would even start fires to terrorize the family that lived there. The house was not just a stage for a haunting, it was an active participant, a vessel for a violent and dangerous spirit. Your own feeling of being in a house that is actively trying to hurt you is a direct echo of the family's terror. A weird bit of occult trivia that you remember from your reading is the concept of a poltergeist, a German term that means noisy ghost. Poltergeists are often associated with physical phenomena like the movement of objects, disembodied noises, and even physical attacks, while most of these phenomena are attributed to a powerful spirit. Some occultists believe that a poltergeist is not a spirit at all, but a form of unconscious psychokinesis, a powerful manifestation of a living person's anger or stress. You wonder if your own terror is fueling the house, if your fear is the energy that is making it so much more powerful. Historians still debate whether the Sally house was a genuine haunting or a result of a collective psychological phenomenon. But the feeling you get from this house is not of a psychological event. It's real. The house is angry with you, and it's not going to let you get away. You sit there, your mind a whirlwind of fear and desperation, and you feel it. A cold draft, a sudden, sharp current of air that makes you shiver. It's coming from under the door. You look down, your flashlight beam trembling, and you see something that makes your blood run cold. Under the door, a faint, wispy shadow is creeping in. A thin, dark line that is slowly, methodically moving across the floor. It's not a shadow. It's a tendril of pure darkness, a physical manifestation of the entity's will. It's a probe, a silent, searching hand, and it's looking for you. The tendril of darkness creeps under the door, a slow, methodical ribbon of blackness. It's not just a shadow, you can feel its cold, a chill that makes the air feel thinner, colder. You lift your feet off the floor, your heart pounding, as the shadow searches the room. A silent, malevolent snake looking for its prey. You can't move. You can't breathe. You can only watch as the tendril of darkness reaches the center of the room. And then, as if it has found what it's looking for, it stops. It thickens, and a new shape begins to form. A form you recognize all too well. It's the tall, gaunt figure from the attic, a swirling vortex of shadows and malice. It has found you. The figure solidifies, its two red eyes glowing like embers in the dark. It stands in the middle of the room, its head tilted, as if it's studying you, memorizing every detail of your terrified face. You can feel its malevolence, a wave of cold hatred that washes over you, leaving you shaking and gasping for breath. The figure moves, a slow, deliberate step that is terrifying in its quiet confidence. It knows you can't run. It knows you can't fight. It knows you are its. And then, a new horror. It mimics you. You take a step back, and it takes a step forward. You raise your hands in a defensive gesture, and it raises its long, spindly arms in a grotesque mockery of your own. You realize with a sickening feeling that it's not just mimicking you. It's a doppelganger, a perfect, terrifying reflection of yourself. This ability of a malevolent entity to mirror a victim's movements is a common theme in many hauntings. The historical case of the Black Monk of Pontefract, a poltergeist said to haunt a family in a small English town in the 1970s, comes to mind. The family reported that the spirit would physically attack them and manifest as a hooded figure that would follow them around the house, mimicking their every movement. The monk, it was said, was an angry and violent spirit that had been disturbed from his slumber, and he would not rest until he had driven the family out of the house. A weird bit of occult lore that you remember from your reading is the concept of a fetch, a Scottish term for a person's ghostly double or spirit twin. These spectral figures are said to be a sign of impending doom, a foreboding omen that death is near. To see your own fetch is considered a sign of your own impending demise. The figure in front of you is not a ghost. It's a fetch. It's a sign that your time in this house and your time on this earth is running out. Historians still debate whether the Black Monk of Pontefract was a genuine haunting or a hoax orchestrated by the family. But the feeling you get from the figure in front of you is not of a hoax. It's real. The figure moves closer. It's every step a perfect, terrifying reflection of your own. You turn to run, and it turns with you, its long, spindly legs moving with an impossible speed. It's not a chase. It's a terrifying dance. You try to open the door, but it's locked. You turn back, and the figure is right in front of you, its red eyes glowing with an unbearable intensity. It's smiling, and you realize, with a sick, lurching feeling in your stomach, that the person it is mocking is not you. It's the great aunt, and the house is not a doppelganger. It's a time machine. The figure in front of you is a perfect, terrifying reflection, not of you, but of your great aunt, Eleonora. The gestures, the fear in its pose, the way its arms are held in a defensive, hopeless gesture. It's all from the photograph. You realize the house isn't just a physical space, it's a temporal one. You're not just in an old house, you're in the past. You're in a moment of pure, unadulterated terror, a moment frozen in time, a moment that is now replaying for you. The house is a time loop, and you've just stepped into it. The figure in front of you melts, its form dissolving into a swirling vortex of shadows and light. And then, a new scene forms. The room you're in is no longer a dusty, forgotten bedroom. It's an old parlor, filled with elegant, beautiful furniture. A fire crackles in the fireplace, its flames casting a warm, inviting glow on the walls. The air is no longer cold and stale. It's warm and smells of old books and fresh-cut flowers. You're standing in the middle of a perfect, beautiful room, and a woman is sitting in a chair, her back to you. She's humming a soft, melodic tune. It's the music box lullaby, but it's not distorted and evil. It's sweet and comforting, a song of love and innocence. You feel a strange sense of peace, a feeling so profound that it makes you want to sit down and rest. This bizarre, terrifying experience of stepping into a historical scene is a common theme in many supernatural legends. One of the most famous historical accounts is that of the ghosts of Versailles. In 1901, two English academics, Charlotte Ann Moberly and Alina Jourdain, claimed that they were walking in the gardens of the Petit Trianon, a small chateau on the grounds of the Palace of Versailles, when they suddenly found themselves in the 18th century. They claimed they saw figures in period dress and even spoke to some of them. While many historians have debunked the account as a fantasy, the idea of stepping into a historical moment, a memory of a place, is a fascinating and terrifying one. A weird piece of occult trivia you remember from your reading is the concept of a psychic time slip, a rare and powerful paranormal phenomenon where a person or group of people can temporarily slip into the past, seeing and experiencing events from a different time. This phenomenon is often associated with places that have a strong emotional or historical energy. The house, you realize, is not just haunted. It's a time machine, a portal to a moment of terrible trauma. Historians still debate whether the ghosts of Versailles was a real psychic time slip or a result of a shared hallucination. But the feeling you get from this parlor is not of a hallucination. It's real. The woman sitting in the chair turns, and you see her face. It's Eleonora, but she's not terrified and pale. She's young and beautiful, and her eyes are bright with a life you never thought she had. She smiles, a gentle, sad smile, and you realize you're not seeing her in the past. You're seeing her in a moment of perfect happiness. And then you hear a sound from outside, a loud, booming crash that shatters the illusion. The fire in the fireplace flickers and dies. The flowers on the table wilt and turn to ash. The room dissolves, and you're back in the dark, dusty bedroom. But Eleonora is still there. She's standing in front of you now, her face a mask of terror, her eyes wide with a familiar fear. She looks past you, her eyes locked on something behind you, and she whispers. It's here. Eleonora's whisper is a thin, terrified sound, a warning that is more than 100 years too late. You feel a cold, burning pressure on your back, and you turn around slowly. The tall, gaunt figure is there, a swirling vortex of shadows and malice. Its red eyes are fixed on Eleonora, a look of pure, unadulterated hatred burning in their depths. Eleonora screams, a silent, terrible scream that you feel in your soul. And she turns and runs, her feet a frantic drumbeat on the floorboards. The figure glides after her, its movements a perfect, terrifying echo of her own. You are watching a memory, a terrible, final moment frozen in time. You realize what you're seeing. The entity isn't just a monster. It's a living, breathing curse. It's a punishment. It's the physical manifestation of a terrible betrayal. A tragic love story that went horribly, horribly wrong. You watch, horrified, as the figure corners Eleonora in the hallway. She screams again, and the sound is so raw, so full of pain, that you feel a sob rise in your throat. The figure reaches out, its long, spindly arms stretching to wrap around her, and she falls to her knees, her body convulsing. You can see her face, a mask of pure terror, as the entity's red eyes burn into her. This horrific reenactment of a traumatic event is a common phenomenon in many supernatural accounts. The Myrtles plantation in Louisiana, for example, is said to be haunted by a number of ghosts, including a woman who was poisoned and a young child. Visitors have reported seeing the ghosts reenact their final moments, playing a terrifying loop of tragedy and suffering. The house itself is said to be a witness, a keeper of the horrible memories. A weird piece of occult trivia you remember from your reading is the concept of a spiritual echo, a residual energy left behind by a person's intense emotion. These echoes can be so powerful that they can replay a moment of great joy, or in this case, a moment of profound trauma over and over again for eternity. The house is a living, breathing record, and you are just a spectator, a ghost in a terrible play. Historians still debate the veracity of the Myrtles plantation's ghost stories, but the feeling you get from this reenactment is not of a story. It's real. The air is thick with a sense of immense tragedy, a sorrow so deep it makes your heart ache. You watch as the figure's face, a swirling vortex of shadows and light, forms a new shape. It's the face of a man, a handsome, cruel man with eyes of pure malice. He smiles, a terrible, triumphant smile, and you realize that the man in the photo with your great aunt wasn't a friend. He was the betrayer. He was the one who cursed her. He was the one who created this monster. The entity isn't just a ghost, it's a living, breathing curse, a punishment from a wronged lover. Eleonora screams again, a sound of pure agony, and the man's face melts back into the swirling vortex of shadows. The figure's long, spindly arms wrap around her, and she dissolves, her body turning into a fine gray mist that is absorbed into the entity's form. She's gone. She's a part of the humming chorus now, a new voice in the terrible song. The figure turns to you, its red eyes burning with a triumphant glow. It knows you saw. It knows you understand. It knows it's your turn now. The entity's red eyes burn into you, two tiny suns of pure, malevolent energy. It's not angry anymore. It's triumphant. It's a predator that has just finished a meal, and it's looking at its next victim. The room is still, a terrifying, expectant silence that is 100 times worse than the screaming. The entity glides toward you, its movements fluid and silent, a terrifying dance of death. You are frozen, a deer in the headlights, your mind a whirlwind of terror and desperation. You have to fight, you have to run, but your legs won't move. Your body refuses to obey your commands. The figure stops just inches from you, its red eyes burning into your soul. You can feel a cold, suffocating pressure on your mind, an immense force trying to erase you, to absorb you, to make you a part of the humming chorus. You close your eyes, trying to fight it, but you can feel it slipping in. A cold, insidious tendril of blackness that is trying to unmake you. You think of your great aunt, of her desperate plea, of her final moments. You think of the key in your pocket, the one that was meant to be a lock, not an escape. You have to use it. You have to finish what she couldn't. This final, desperate attempt to use an object as a weapon against a powerful spirit is a staple of many legends and supernatural accounts. The Anneliese Mitchell exorcism, a real-life case from Germany in the 1970s, comes to mind. A young woman was said to be possessed by 6 different demons, and the exorcism that was performed on her involved the use of holy water, a crucifix, and other religious artifacts. While the case ended in tragedy, the belief that a physical object can be used to combat a spiritual entity is a powerful one. A final, desperate act of defiance against a force that seems to be all-powerful. A weird piece of occult trivia you remember from your reading is the concept of a spiritual anchor, an object that is so imbued with a person's will and intention that it can act as a vessel for their spirit. The key in your pocket is not just a key. It's a part of you now. You have held it, you have fought for it, and you have imbued it with your will to live, with your desperate need to survive. It's a weapon, a shield, and a last desperate hope. Historians still debate whether the Anneliese Mitchell case was a genuine possession or a tragic result of mental illness and religious fanaticism. But the feeling you get from this entity is not of mental illness. It's real. The cold, suffocating pressure on your mind is real. The burning red eyes are real. You open your eyes, your mind screaming a silent protest. You look at the entity, and you feel a strange sense of calm. You are not a victim. You are a warrior. You reach into your pocket, your fingers fumbling for the key. You pull it out, and you hold it up, a shining piece of brass in the dim light of the room. The entity hisses, a sound of pure hatred and surprise. It didn't expect this. It didn't expect you to fight back. The key begins to glow, a faint blue light that pulsates with every beat of your heart. The entity recoils, its form flickering and shrinking, a monster that is suddenly afraid. The key is a key to its prison. It's a key to its damnation. You look at the entity, and you see the fear in its eyes, a raw, animalistic terror that makes you want to laugh. You have the power. You have the lock. And you have the key. You have to use it. You have to finish this. The key in your hand is a beacon of defiance, a small, glowing ember of light in the vast, suffocating darkness. The entity, a swirling vortex of shadows and malice, recoils, a high-pitched shriek of pure terror escaping its vortex of a mouth. The tables have turned. The hunter has become the hunted. You are no longer the terrified victim. You are the exorcist, the warrior, the final piece of a ritual that was set in motion more than a century ago. You can feel the power of the key, a tangible force that pulses with a cold blue light. It's a power that feels ancient and pure, a force that is the antithesis of the darkness that surrounds you. You know what you have to do. You have to finish the ritual. You have to use the key to lock the entity in the house, to seal it away forever. You look at the parchment on the floor, the one with the glowing symbols and the word lock. You have to find a place to complete the ritual, a place that is connected to the entity, a place that holds the key to its prison, and you know, with a sudden, bone-deep certainty, where that place is. The attic. This whole process of using a key or a specific object to lock a spirit away is a powerful theme in many cultures and myths. One of the most famous historical accounts is that of the Dybbuk box, a wine cabinet said to be haunted by a restless, malevolent spirit called a Dybbuk. The box was said to cause misfortune and illness to anyone who possessed it, and it was eventually sealed and locked away in a wooden box, a final, desperate attempt to contain the spirit. The box was meant to be a prison, a physical manifestation of a spiritual lock. Your key feels exactly like that, a physical prison for a spiritual monster. A weird piece of occult trivia you remember from your reading is the concept of an unbinding, a ritual used to release a spirit from a physical or spiritual prison. The entity wants to be unbound, to be free to roam the world, to feed on the fear of the living. The key and the ritual you are about to perform is an unbinding for its freedom and a binding for its soul. It's a final, terrible act of justice. Historians still debate whether the Dybbuk box was a genuine haunting or a clever publicity stunt. But the feeling you get from this entity is not of a publicity stunt. It's real. The entity is thrashing, its form flickering and shrinking, a wounded animal fighting for its life. You turn and run, your boots pounding on the dusty floorboards. You run down the hallway, past the open doors of the rooms, and you make it to the stairs. You run up, your heart pounding, your legs screaming in protest. You make it to the top of the stairs, and you see it, the attic door. It's ajar, a small, dark crack in the otherwise solid wall. The entity has already begun to unbind itself. You have to hurry. You have to finish this. The humming from the attic is a low, frantic thrum, the sound of a prisoner fighting to escape. You are running on pure adrenaline now, your feet a blur on the dusty stairs. You have to get to the attic. You have to use the key. You have to complete the ritual. You can feel the house vibrating around you, its walls and floors shuddering with the entity's rage. It knows you're coming. It knows what you're about to do, and it's not going to let you. You hear a sound then, a sound that makes your blood run cold. It's the sound of the house itself groaning, a terrible, low moan that seems to come from its very foundations. The floorboards under you begin to crack, a series of sickening snaps that echo in the silent hallway. The house is trying to swallow you whole. This final, desperate attempt by a haunted house to destroy its inhabitants is a classic horror trope, and a historical case that comes to mind is the Smurl haunting in Pennsylvania. the family claimed that a poltergeist or a demonic entity would physically attack them, levitate them, and even burn parts of their house. The entity was so powerful that it was said to cause the very house to shake and move, as if it were a living, breathing thing. Your own feeling of the house trying to destroy you is a direct echo of their terror. A weird piece of occult trivia you remember from your reading is the concept of a spiritual gesh, a powerful binding curse that is tied to a specific location. The house, you realize, is a spiritual gesh, a curse that is tied to this land, to this location. The curse is a prison for the entity, and the house is the physical manifestation of that prison. The key you hold is the key to the gesh, a powerful spiritual weapon that can either break the curse or reinforce it. Historians still debate whether the Smurl haunting was a genuine paranormal event or a long-standing case of mass hysteria. But the feeling you get from this house is not of hysteria. It's real. The floorboards under you give way, and you fall, a screaming, terrified blur, into the darkness below. You land with a sickening thump on a pile of dusty, old furniture. You're in the parlor. You're back where you started. The house is playing with you now. The entity is in front of you, a swirling vortex of shadows and malice. Its red eyes are burning with a triumphant glow. It knows you've been trying to get to the attic. It knows you have the key, and it's not going to let you get there. You look at it, and you feel a strange sense of calm. You are not a victim. You are a warrior. You have a purpose, a mission. You have to use the key. You raise the key in your hand. Its blue light pulsating with a new, fierce energy. You look at the entity, and you feel a surge of power, a wave of pure, white-hot anger that washes away your fear. You are not scared anymore. You are furious. You take a step forward, your boots crunching on the dusty floorboards. The entity hisses, a sound of pure hatred, and it lunges at you, a swirling vortex of shadows and malice. You hold the key up, and you whisper the word from the parchment. Lock. The key glows, its light a searing, white-hot fire. The entity screams, a sound of pure agony, and it recoils, its form flickering and shrinking. The air is filled with 1,000 voices, a chorus of pain and sorrow, as the entity is pulled, kicking and screaming, into the vortex of the key. The key absorbs it, a tiny, glowing sun of pure, malevolent energy. The house shudders, its walls and floors groaning. And then, with a terrible final crash, it collapses in on itself, a monument to 100 years of suffering and pain. You are in the middle of a pile of dust and rubble. You are alive, and you are free. The cold has seeped into your bones, but it's a different kind of cold now, a silence that isn't menacing. It's the cold of an open field at midnight, the quiet of a graveyard after the mourners have left. The weight of the world has lifted from your shoulders, replaced by an exhaustion so profound you can barely stand. You look at the rubble where the house once stood, a dark mound against the rising moon. The key is in your hand, no longer glowing, just a tarnished piece of brass. You're safe. You're outside. You're alone. The hum is gone. The whispers are gone. The cold touch is a ghost of a memory on your arm, but you know something is still out there. You look up at the moon, and you see the stars. A cold, vast emptiness that makes you feel very small. And for a moment, you wonder if you truly escaped, or if you just traded one prison for another. The night is quiet, but you can hear the wind whistling a new tune, a song you don't recognize. And the tune is getting closer. Sweet dreams, a song you don't recognize. And the tune is getting closer. Sweet dreams.